Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello, and welcome to episode 165, where we're going to talk about how I use my own coaching to feel supported again in my marriage. So I'm going to start off with a confession, which is that my marriage is not perfect. There are times when I feel frustrated. There are times when I feel hurt. There are times when I don't feel as supported or as cared for as I'd like to be in my ideal world. There are times I focus in on my husband's unskillfulness instead of the ways he is being a good husband. You know how it goes, right? And I say this in part because I want you to understand that your marriage doesn't have to be perfect. Your husband or partner does not have to be perfect for you to have a great, wonderful, even amazing marriage or relationship with them. And that even the best of marriages are going to have difficult areas, places in them that aren't wonderful, that are painful, that are challenging. And here's the thing. I know that I could use this these struggles, these challenges, I should say, that my husband and I have in our marriage to kind of beat myself up and feel like a fraud and feel like I can't be an amazing coach or help you all with your marriages if my marriage isn't perfect. But I think that would be a tragedy, because the fact of the matter is, because our marriage isn't always perfect, because we have these challenges in it, and because I'm willing to do my work and use the teachings I give you all and the in-depth work that I do with my clients, I use that and do that for myself, that actually allows me to be a better helper for you, to help you better, because I actually use my own teachings. I take my own advice and I dig in and I look at myself. And I work with my husband based on what I, learn and work on in myself, so that we can collaborate and continue to evolve our marriage into something better and better every day. So today I want to take an issue that's been going on for my husband and I, really for me, something I've been really frustrated by. And I want to share with you exactly how I have just dealt with it super effectively and how I wasn't dealing with it super effectively first, so that you can kind of see my teachings happen in real time and use them even better in your marriage, whether you're struggling with issues related to this one that I'm going to share with you that I've been going through, or you want to use them for other issues, because this work is going to help with any issue, honestly, that you're going through in your marriage. And in some ways, this is kind of piggybacking on last week's episode and giving you a taste of how to actually do all that I talked about last week, like how I actually do it and go from a place of, in my case, feeling really unsupported and angry with my husband, off and on for a while now, to getting to a place of feeling really supported and actually, I want to just say happy with my husband, like really grateful for him. So I'm going to give you the actual process. I'm going to illustrate the actual process I went through just earlier today to get there. And feel free to do this process yourself on a similar issue or whatever it is that you're feeling or experiencing that's hard for you right now in your relationship. Okay, so are you ready? So to set the stage a little bit, what's been going on for me is this sort of generalized sense of not feeling very supported by my husband, feeling like he was more, and like this has been for the last few weeks, like here and there, but kind of this underlying sense. I mean, we were also having a lot of good times during this time period, these last few weeks, like the connection and all the good stuff that was made even more potent during our anniversary trip that I talked about recently. That was all still there, but also certain things would happen. And then this like snappy, angry part of me would kind of rear its head. And I'd go back to this kind of underlying sense of feeling like he's kind of more focused on everything besides me, everything besides the things I've asked from him, you know, not even being there very much domestically as much as I'm used to him being there. He's been very focused on work, but also very focused on play. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll know that my husband is a big adventurer, and it comes out even stronger in the summer and has been a source of conflict for both of us. Well, not just his adventurous, but how I relate to that adventurousness. And so this has been an issue that we've worked through quite a bit, but sometimes still rears its head. I tend to see this part of him as kind of selfish sometimes, and I also have this tendency to go to this place of feeling like he's not caring about me enough, like he's not supporting me enough. And I know so many of you can relate, and I have no shame in saying that. I think this is a super common challenge that we women feel in our relationships, and maybe even more so as highly sensitive women. And we feel it oftentimes regardless of whether our partner is a very supportive partner or a very caring partner or does deeply care for us or is doing things that are very supportive, right? And if that doesn't make sense, I think you'll understand that more as I share how I worked on this issue myself just today and have over the years as well. Now, as is very typical when we're feeling this way or we're sensing our partner isn't caring for us enough or supporting us enough, there's this tendency in us as women, as humans, to feel like it's their fault, to look outward at our partner and just point out even to him all the ways he isn't doing enough supporting or enough caring for us. In other words, to blame our partner for our feelings of not being cared for or supported. And this is a human tendency that is so strong, this desire to, it's an unconscious thing, but this desire to blame our partner for our bad feelings in the relationship, that even for me, who has been doing this work that's all about self-responsibility and harnessing my power to make my relationship better and to, have agency over my feelings, and I'm very good at all of this. So even for me, this tendency to blame our partners for our bad feelings is so strong that even for me, I didn't want to have to look at myself. Like I was resisting doing this work because of like that lizard brain part of me was just so convinced it's him. And off and on for a few weeks, I have been kind of poking him about it. Like I've been a little snappy with him here and there. And I was not spending a lot of time self-coaching on this. And part of that is because of how much else I have been going through and dealing with these last several weeks. So that can also contribute to this sort of resistance to want to do this work on ourselves. So if you've ever felt that, I have total compassion for you. I totally get it. And I can guarantee it is so worth slowing down and doing this 180-degree pivot, which means going from blaming our partner to taking responsibility for what's going on inside of ourselves and shifting that so that we can feel better and have such a better relationship. So like my brain was doing, if you sometimes feel skeptical that turning towards yourself and looking inward could help anything, I get it, but it's absolutely worth slowing down and doing this work. And I've been deeply reminded of that over this last month because I wasn't doing a great job at actually taking a look at myself. And honestly, it made these last couple of weeks a lot harder than they had to be. Because after doing this work, I feel so much better and, again, so much happier with my husband. And I know I've cleared up this sort of what I've thought of before as like the briars around my heart, the wall around my heart. And I'm going to be able to have such a sweeter, more fun, more loving time with him. Okay, so here's what I did and what I'd invite you to do if you're feeling anything hard towards your spouse right now. I remembered my own teachings that there is some need that is going unmet for me, right? And while the tendency is to look towards my husband to meet that need for me, since I had been asking him to do that and he hadn't really been doing it, it meant it was time to look at what that need was even to begin with, right? So how I discovered that was like I wanted to see a pattern because there were all these little things that I was feeling aggravated by and that I was getting actually quite mad at him about. And they were little things. They were like him being late coming home from something and forgetting to help out in a certain way I'd asked him to with our son. Things like this. So I wanted to find if I was just like super irritable and just kind of off my rocker a little bit lately, or if there was a like consistent underlying emotional need in me that was not being met. And the way that I figured this out was I sat down, I wrote down 4 or 5 specific scenarios in which I'd recently had this anger flare up. And I looked at what the feeling really was. So yes, anger was there, but then I looked at under that, at what the actual feeling was that was driving that. And I also looked at the thoughts, because the thoughts I was having about that situation, each of these situations, pointed me to what the feelings really were, right? So it wasn't just that I felt anger, like that was obvious, right? When like he came home late that time, I was obviously angry. That was clear to me. But when I slowed myself down and looked at the thoughts I was really thinking, I could see that the true feeling I was having was unsupported and uncared for. And that anger was just kind of rising up to try to protect myself and get that support and care that I wanted, which if you've been listening to me for a while, you'll know that generally anger or acting from anger isn't the way you're going to get that support and that care. And so once I saw that I was feeling unsupported and uncared for, I asked myself, what emotional need does that indicate I am not getting met? And for me, the clear answer was feeling supported, right? The emotional need of support. And obviously also cared for. So I invite you to do that for yourself. If there's an area you're feeling kind of angry or upset about in your marriage. When we're irritated or just having a lot of hard feelings towards our partner, it's often because there is this underlying unmet need in ourselves. And that doesn't mean it's because your partner's not meeting it. It means simply that that need is going unmet. No one's meeting it, in other words. Now, if you're curious to hear a bunch more about needs and understand this more in depth and the difference between needs and wants, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go listen to episode 96, because this is an area we get really confused about in relationship, and it causes all sorts of pain and suffering and strife. And even for folks like me who have so much relationship skill and emotional agency skill, it still happens because, this area of getting our needs met is so huge for us sensitive and actually non-sensitive humans alike. Humans need needs met, but there's a lot of confusion about how we're supposed to get those needs met. And so I highly recommend you go listen to that episode. But we're going to talk more about it right now and how I worked with this just today. So I figured out through this little process that I just shared with you that my need was to feel supported. And so the next thing I did was I asked myself, where am I not meeting that need for support myself? And this is a power question, you all. It was actually the question I didn't want to look at for a while. Like this was the part I was resisting. But when I sat myself down and really asked myself this question, it was so obvious. You guys, these past few weeks, I have been really focusing on things in my business, some new things that I'm creating, new ways I'm doing things, which I'm all excited about. But I've been working a lot harder. I've been behind the computer a lot more. And on top of that, my son, my oldest son, I just took him off to college. And for those of you who have been through this, it's a big deal. And, as sensitive people, was huge. It was huge on my emotions. It still is. I think there's still a lot going on around that is taking a lot energetically and emotionally, right? Not to mention the city that he's in has been having some sort of scary stuff happen. So not only is he off on his own with the normal, fears and concerns and excitement that parents have when they send their kid off to school, but there's some extra dangers right now where he is. And so, yeah, I've had a lot, not to mention, getting my other kids ready to go back to school. And there's just been so many things, and I haven't been attending to myself the way I usually do. So I literally asked myself, how am I not meeting that need of support for myself? And I made it was so easy to sit down and answer this question. I literally wrote down my answers. I hadn't been doing my self-coaching. I hadn't been doing certain aspects of my self-care. I've been doing more active aspects, like more exercise, but not the internal work that is so valuable and enriching and supportive for me and for most of us as highly sensitive people. And there was quite a few other things on this list of where I was not supporting myself. And sitting down and looking at this was pretty eye-opening for me this morning. It was like, no wonder you haven't been feeling supported, Hannah. This makes so much sense now. And I was sort of projecting that out like, he's not supporting me. It's my husband's fault that I'm not feeling supported, right? Because this is what the human brain does, this lizard brain that we all have. But really, it was more about how I wasn't supporting myself, or at least it was in large part about that. And yes, there were definitely places my husband was also not supporting me or, following through on things that felt like he was supporting me. So I'm not saying I'm letting him off the hook, but I am saying how amazing to see and recognize that so much of this lack of a sense of support was because of my own lack of supporting myself. So I invite you to try that as well. Like whatever that emotional need is that you figured out isn't being met, ask yourself, where am I not meeting it? And actually literally write down where you're not meeting that for yourself. It should be pretty eye-opening. And by the way, you want to use that word, like the emotional need for you. Maybe it's supported, maybe it's cared for, maybe it's validated. I don't know what that is, right? But make sure you use that word in a broad sense. Like if it's valued and validated, one of those things, there's a lot of ways you can value yourself. There's a lot of ways you can validate yourself, right? It's not just one thing that will do it. And there's a lot of ways you are probably not doing that, if that makes sense. Okay, on to the next phase here. The next thing that I did in this self-coaching this morning was I kind of flipped it around and I asked myself the question, well, where is my husband supporting me? Because again, remember that our brains love to look at where things are wrong and missing. They love to focus on lack. He's not supporting me, right? When in fact, there's usually plenty of ways that we're missing, that he is doing the thing we wish he was doing when we're focused on where he isn't doing it. Yeah. So I sat down and within 30 seconds or a minute, I made a list of like 10 or more things or ways in which he was supporting me. He is supporting me. And they're very tangible things. Like he encourages me to do the things that I want quite a bit. He's very good at encouraging me that. He volunteered last night to give me a neck massage. He does the dishes every evening without me asking, right? Like he contributes. I won't list everything, but after I wrote this list, and again, I didn't even try very hard. I just spent a few minutes answering this question: where is he supporting me? And as soon as I was able to list those things out and really see them, I suddenly felt supported and cherished. Yes, I even felt that. I felt loved. I felt grateful and lucky to have such a great guy as my husband, someone who supports me. And I felt forgiving. This was so important. I felt a sense of forgiveness of his imperfections, right? Of the ways in which he was not supporting me, or I felt like he wasn't, or I thought that he wasn't supporting me, right? Like I'd stopped feeling like I was holding it against him, that he wasn't showing up on time or, right, prioritizing certain things. I felt like, of course, it's okay that he's not always perfectly supportive. So it was really this sense of giving him grace. And honestly, that felt so freeing inside of me, because it doesn't feel good when we're holding something against someone, does it? It feels like a prison, doesn't it? And I felt liberated from that prison as I focused on the places he was and is supporting me. And I know without a doubt that it's going to be a lot easier from here on out around this, because I just feel so different. Now, the question is, possibly for some of you, will this fix it? Will this fix the issue permanently? And my answer is no. This isn't all there is to do, but this is a huge and important step. It really did help me so much already, and it's not all there is to do. I still plan to do a few more things around this. The first one is I plan that this will come back, that this same feeling, this same thinking process, this same sense of he's not supporting me enough will show up again, because this is how our human brains work. And there may be a need then for me to sensitively, lovingly come in close to those feelings and literally process them through my body with my loving, sensitive, caring attention. This is not the episode to go into what exactly that looks like, but this is a very important part of our own work that we have to do in relationships, which is showing up for our own emotions and processing them through. Now, I didn't feel like I had to do this deeply today, partially because I've actually been processing these emotions through, which is part of why I was able to coach myself like this today. My emotions weren't so huge that I couldn't do this work. Sometimes that's the case. Our emotions are so huge, we have to address those first. So I know that that's something I'll be looking forward to doing, that I'll probably want to do, that I'll need to do to feel supported again and help myself through the sense of not feeling supported. I also plan to talk to my husband after I did this. I want to share what I learned with him. And I want to ask him in a more effective way that I've been doing. Because remember, I've been kind of towards him. So I haven't been in my most effective communication place. So I want to share with him from this new energetic state and these new understandings what I'd like from him and how he could help this situation and how he could help both of us be better supported as a couple. Yeah. So I plan to do that this weekend. And I'm also, of course, going to be using the information I gathered about how I wasn't meeting my own need, how I haven't been meeting my own need for support in various ways. And I'm going to be working on doing more of those things that help me feel supported, that literally support me, such as more time not thinking about work, out in nature, more time away from the computer, and more time coaching myself, more time guiding my own brain to notice and appreciate the ways in which my husband is supporting me and our family and our lives together. So I hope you'll be inspired by this. And I do want to reiterate how amazing I feel right now and how powerfully transformative this few minutes of my time sitting down self-coaching was for me, and how powerful I feel right now in terms of how much influence I have over how good my relationship feels. And this is just the piece of my inner work, right? I haven't even told you about how when I go talk to him later this week, this weekend, how that's gonna shift things. And I know it will, because we've gone through these types of things over and over with different issues. And when I can get to this more powerful place inside of myself, this more empowered, this more personally empowered place, but also this more relationally empowered place, because I'm not just angry and frustrated and blaming, right? I'm in a place of feeling like I have a lot of control over my experience, and like I appreciate and love and I'm grateful for my husband. That is such a better place to communicate from and ask for things that you want. And your partner is going to be so much more receptive from that place. So everything I've shared today is more like level 1 of the work. Like the first work in relationships is looking in at yourself and working on that and shifting that to get to a good place in yourself where you're going to be effective at advocating for the things you want in the relationship between you, right? So that's the second step, is actually communicating to advocate for those changes or the things that you want between you and your honey. So this is a little vulnerable for me to share. I hope it's been helpful, and I'd love to help you more deeply. If you think you could use the help, I am here for you. I have some spaces in my one-to-one private coaching opening up. So definitely reach out to me if you're interested and you're ready for your marriage to grow stronger and more loving, more connected every day. And you're ready to be able to get over these hard things with ease and grace and love, and be able to come out the other side with deeper intimacy, deeper trust, deeper supportiveness than ever. I'm going to put the link to learn more and the sign-up form for coaching with me in the description, in the notes. And you can also find all of this over at www.lifeisworthloving.com. So don't hesitate to reach out. I am here for you. All right, my friends, be oh so well.